This morning, I'm filled with a lot of smiles in my heart. At the same time, thinking deeper about what today means to each and every one of us. But let me tell you why I'm here. 6 months ago, when I thought about the idea of organizing TEDxUmudike, that wasn't the first time. While I was still a student in Microbial University of Agriculture, I've always asked myself, what can I do to place this place on the map, on the global map? Sometime in 2015, I was able to do a part of this by representing the institution at the World Universities Debating Championship in Malaysia, where I happened to be the second best in the world in the public speaking category. But I asked again, what more can I do? Fast forward down to 2025, the early months of the year, I had a conversation with my A team, amazing souls, who are part of the main pillars behind TEDxUmudike today. And there and then we talked about bringing TEDx to Umudike. We applied for the license, and in June, I was granted that license. It's been a lot of struggles, but the moment we had to stop saying, I will try this, and started thinking we were able to bring it to Umudike. Friends, you see, the truth is, in life, we cannot always control what the outcome is individually. But when we decide to work together as a team, we're able to do a lot together, and we're able to become everything we can be. We've been sold the lie, I must confess. The lie that there are lone geniuses in the world. They don't exist. The lie also that asking for help makes you weak. The lie that success is a solo action. That's not true. And that happens when we don't understand the concept of Igwebuike, which has brought us here today. Igwebuike is not just a philosophy. Igwebuike is a survival strategy. Igwebuike is not just a philosophy. Igwebuike is an ideology that powers any community that must go far and that can achieve global relevance that is sustainable. These are part of the things I learned while we were getting ready for this event that you're seated today to enjoy. When you look closely, you will notice that anything that matters in life was not done by one person. It was done by a team of committed people who worked their fingers to their bones. Thursday night, we had volunteers who slept here. Friday night, we have volunteers who slept here just to make sure today's event is a success. If you look at the smartphones in your hands or in your pockets, hundreds of companies came together to make just one smartphone. If you look at the chair you are sitting on, it was mined, it was designed, it was assembled and delivered by many hands and different companies. Everything is Igwebuike. Can you tell that to your neighbor? Today in this room, you're going to meet people who matter. You are going to meet people who are doing much more than you can ever imagine. But one thing you must know is, if you don't connect with those whom you're meeting, you are likely not going to get to where you need to go to. Not every other day, but today. There's one person you may have to share a lunch with that will change the story of your life. I remember having a meeting sometime last 2 years in Imo State where I stayed. That meeting was a very transformative meeting that affected the way I saw things and changed my perspective to life. Not because I wasn't thinking differently before, but it changed my perspective of how things happen. And it's only when you find yourself in those kind of meetings that you are able to get a deeper value to yourself. Only if we can remember Igwebuike, a lot of things will change in our life and how we make our story. In this opening remark, I'm not just telling you an opening remark on how far it's been and how the journey has been till today and where we are. But I want to take you on a journey called the Igwebuike story. Let's go on that journey. It started with the Aba Women's Riot. How many of us have heard about that? You heard about the Aba Women Riot, right? Beautiful. That was in November 1929 in southeastern Nigeria. British officers they tried to tax every single woman, even of their properties. One woman called Onye, she refused. As she refused, her defiance sparked a great fire across the community. When Onye refused, within weeks, more than 25,000 women rose up. No single leader, no permission needed, just unity. They sang, they chanted, they protested, they danced with courage that shook the entire empire. 55 women died. But guess what? Their defiance stopped and forced the British to listen to them. They proved that when women unite together, even empires must bend. Because one tree cannot make a forest. Aside that, let's talk about the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. Remember, it's the Igwebuike story I'm telling you. When you fast forward to 1976, something the South Africans always talk about, Soweto. Students filed the streets and filed everywhere protesting a decree that forced them to learn in Afrikaans, a language of the Southern Africans. The march suddenly it became a movement. Workers, musicians, athletes, churches all united together to make sure that people were having their voices heard. What began as a march in that 1976 got into the churches, got into the mosques, got into everywhere. And not only did it just march, it changed the way everything happened to them. When Mandela walked free in 1990, he didn't walk alone. He walked with many people, the strength of millions who had refused to walk separately. They didn't defeat apartheid in South Africa just because they were stronger than the whites, but because they were together. A third story of Igwebuike. I'll talk to you about the Harambee spirit in Kenya. After independence, Kenya faced a simple but daunting question. How do we build with so little? President Jomo Kenyatta gave an answer named Harambee, meaning let's pull together. Communities pooled what they had: money, labor, time, faith. They built over 4,000 schools, hundreds of hospitals. Progress wasn't handed down by government. Progress was built by hands that joined together. That is Igwebuike. I'll tell you a fourth story. Festac 77, Lagos, Nigeria. In 1977, Lagos became the beating heart of the Black Pride. 60 nations, 17,000 artists and thinkers gathered for Festac 77. For one magnificent month, Africa and her diaspora met, not in mourning, but in celebration. They came together, poets from the Caribbean, from dancers from Brazil, sculptors from Senegal, musicians from Nigeria, and everywhere. They came together to remind the world that African culture doesn't just survive, it thrives. And it shines brightest when we celebrate it together. Remember, this is the Igwebuike story I'm sharing with you. Finally, I'm going to talk about the one most of us witnessed, the End SARS protest. If you witnessed it, can you give me a wiper? Yeah. I'll be shocked if nobody did. Before I talk about the NSAS story, can we just give few seconds silence for those who lost their lives? May their soul rest in peace. October 2020, just 9 days from today, would be a memory. 5 years ago, when we had a new generation of Nigerians that we discovered the Igwebuike spirit. What started as an outrage on the internet became a movement. No central leader, just unity of purpose. They raised funds from crypto. They built medical teams at different places. They offered legal aids. They turned tweets into actions and actions into global awareness. They proved that unity evolves, that unity adapts, but it never dies. Together they showed that even in pains, the Nigerian youths are unbreakable. Friends, when we look at all these stories, we get to the point where we ask ourselves the question, what are you doing to ensure there is a change around you? We are not gathered here because we don't have other things we want to do on a Saturday. We are not gathered here because there are not other things that you can be doing with your life. We're not gathered here because we are not individually smart to achieve the great things that we want to achieve in a lifetime. But we are gathered here because we understand that when we come together, we achieve a lot more than we can achieve when we are alone. In mathematics, there is something called compounding. When you have simple interest and you have compound interest gives you more value for your time and the time value of money than simple interest. And that is what has brought us here. How we can collectivize our ideas by listening to these ideas that are changing and shaping the world by our speakers who are ready to inspire us with thoughts from their personal fields, their professional fields, and everything they are doing. I want you to think today as you're living here. Don't just listen. Be willing to act. Don't just act alone. Be willing to collaborate. And don't just collaborate with anybody. Collaborate with people who believe in the Igwebuike ideology. The Igbo spirit started sometime with just the Onye, aghala, nwanne idea. But it gets to a point when they knew that we shouldn't just say it. We should live it. We should believe it. And we should build in colonies what we believe so dearly to our hearts. In today's section, we have tracks on technology, on media, on finance, on business, on leadership, just to make sure everybody has a slice of the cake. I hope you don't live here the same way you came. I also hope that you understand that the challenges of today is not just all that exists. I hope you understand that in a world that teaches us to compete and hoard, Igwebuike invites us to build and to share. I hope you understand this, that this is the reason why the core team, the executive volunteers team that have put this together have invited you for this intellectual feast. I crave your indulgence. Don't live here worse than those who never came. Because Igwebuike is not an active philosophy. It lives on. Welcome to TEDxUmudike. Igwebuike.